So here begins the first part of this story. And this is my DevOps story, which began in 2007, which we could also call as the pre-DevOps era. And here is how the state of the organizations typically looked like in the pre-DevOps era. And this was a time when I was working as operations engineer for a valley-based startup, and I was part of the team which was not only responsible for managing the application infrastructure, but also for cutting out the releases. So I was also working as sort of a release engineer at that point of time. Now, releases is something that I still vividly remember from my days back in 2007, where releases were more or less like a thriller movie where you would it there would be a sort of a tangible tension in the air. There would be a lot of drama around it, and at that point of time we were cutting the releases out to production every 2 weeks, so twice a month, which was pretty fast for the time that was 2007. However, it was always like, as I mentioned, in a thriller movie where you wouldn't know what's gonna happen. There would be a lot of anticipation. We would put a lot of people on call, including obviously the operations engineer that we were, as well as the developers who had committed their changes to that particular release. And most of the times things would go okay, but there would be times when it would not, and we would have to call out the engineers. We would have to get them involved. There would be sometimes minor issues, sometimes it would be major issues resulting in rollback of the product itself, right? So there was a lot of drama around that, and that was the state of the releases because we were not always confident about the product going out. Second is, as an operations engineer or part of the release teams that we were in, we did not have a lot of insights into what went into the actual product and what were the changes which went in. So not a lot of insights into the actual product. It was like it was thrown at us from that invisible brick wall, and we were sort of in dark, but we were also the first responders, so we had to know or had to go and check what the issues were when there would be production issues without the knowledge of what went in. The second part that I want to talk about from the pre-DevOps era is the infrastructure. The state of the infrastructure was not very consistent at that point of time. We had a bunch of Snowflake servers, and we were, as part of our operations team, we were all experts at the one-liners and the scripts, and take it Shell or Python or Perl or Sed or Awk. We had knowledge of we had experts at every single technology, and most of the times though the changes that we would make would be reactive. That's one. Second is, the changes would be ad hoc to the infrastructure. So we would log into the servers manually and make some changes or run some scripts. Each one of us had a bunch of scripts that we were comfortable in, and a lot of ad hoc changes leading to a lot of inconsistencies. At times we had production issues, which the root cause of that, when we diagnosed, was just some configuration being updated by someone and not informing everyone else about it. That was the state of infrastructure, very ad hoc and sort of a chaotic environment because we didn't have a way to consistently push the changes out to this infrastructure. Now, talking about continuous integration, which was in a very nascent stage at that time, and the tool that some of our engineer teams were experimenting with was cruise control. We had heard about another new interesting tool called as Hudson, created by Sun Microsystems back in 2007, but it was all in a nascent stage, as I just mentioned. Monitoring side of things was all Nagios for us, and which was a very, very popular open source monitoring solutions. We didn't have a way to pull out the logs and centrally manage at that point of time. There was not a lot of observability systems that you see today. It was purely Nagios related, or generate the metrics and send out the alerts. And the problem with this approach was we used to get a lot of alerts. So there was the noise ratio, was pretty high at that point of time, where a lot of times we would get paged for the alerts, which were quite minor in terms of the impact. And what used to happen as a result of that was we would lose the sensitivity towards the alerts at times as well, right? Because you're on call, you're getting hundreds of alerts a night, and probably only one or two are the ones which you really need to address immediately. So that was the state of the monitoring system at that point of time. And this is how things looked like in the pre-DevOps era. In the next one, I'm going to start narrating how I saw DevOps starting out and evolving in the next few years.